Throughout the 17th century, the strategically vital island, guarding the mouth of the Hudson River, remained a volatile and untamed frontier, rife with uncertainty and chaos. Initially established by the Dutch as little more than a modest trading post, it bore the unpretentious name of New Amsterdam. Yet, this unparalleled and pivotal geographical location quickly transformed the area into a fiery focal point in the relentless imperial power struggle between European nations, determined to extend their dominion across the far shores of the Atlantic. That early settlement consisted only of crudely constructed wooden dwellings, thoroughfares perpetually deep in mud, and a small, rudimentary defensive fort. But when a powerful English naval fleet appeared menacingly off the coast, New Amsterdam changed hands rapidly and almost silently, without a single shot being fired. Dutch culture and language gradually faded into the background, yielding to the new ruling power and a distinctly different name. By the century's close, this nascent community had successfully navigated its turbulent formative years, establishing itself firmly as an ambitious commercial crossroads poised on the western edge of a still largely unexplored continent. This encapsulates the dramatic and eventful shaping of New York throughout the 17th century. The year 1609 marked the initial documented European presence, when Henry Hudson set foot ashore along the river that would ultimately bear his name. His crew observed densely forested, tide-lapped riverbanks, which were, in reality, the site of an intricate and established trading network, long maintained by the Indigenous Lenape people. This seemingly tranquil and simple moment became the pivotal event that threw open the gates to a fierce influx of traders, settlers, and the subsequent relentless imperial rivalries that would persist for centuries. In 1626, Dutch officials executed what has become a historically watershed agreement. They purchased Manhattan from the Lenape community, using trade goods valued at approximately 24 guilders at the time. This transaction, silent and highly pragmatic, underscored the profound clash in cultural views regarding land ownership between the two entirely disparate civilizations. Regardless of the agreement's true nature, it secured a firm foothold for the Dutch, who immediately set about the rigorous task of construction and establishing solid defensive systems. The initial days in New Amsterdam were characterized by ceaseless, back-breaking labor. Settlers were forced to wield axes against the dense forests covering Manhattan, then painstakingly drag heavy logs through viscous mud to erect houses, storehouses, and protective palisades. The combined scents of burning wood, sweat, and the sharp sounds of sawing and splitting timber echoed across the small settlement, a clear testament to a construction process that was slow, arduous, and achieved day by day, plank by hard-won plank. Also, in 1626, Fort Amsterdam was swiftly erected on the southern tip of Manhattan, a robust structure composed of earth and timber. This fortification served not only as an essential military shield safeguarding the immediate area, but also as a powerful declaration of the Dutch Republic's long-term ambitions and their assertion of unchallenged power in the New World. After years submerged in escalating tensions and bloody conflicts, 1644 saw Dutch leaders and representatives of the native tribes sign profoundly fragile peace treaties, aimed at temporarily halting the violence. While these agreements were scarcely sufficient to forge enduring trust between the two parties, they nonetheless brought a critical period of respite, allowing New Amsterdam vital time to regroup, recuperate, and continue its process of territorial expansion. By 1655, the number of enslaved Africans forcibly brought to New Amsterdam had substantially increased. Traded as chattel by the Dutch West India Company, they were compelled to perform brutal labor on the docks, on farms, and within households, existing under merciless control and inhumane exploitation. This represented a quiet yet harrowing turning point in history, as slavery gradually became consolidated and inextricably anchored into the fledgling economic structure of the settlement. Daily life inside a mid-17th century New Amsterdam home unfolded within cramped but cozy spaces warmed by brick hearths. Natural light merely filtered through small window panes, illuminating rough-hewn wooden tables, thick wool blankets, and essential pewter utensils. Mornings began extremely early with hot porridge and familiar chores. Children were tasked with grinding grain and hauling water. Adults repaired fishing nets, chopped firewood, and urgently prepared food stocks for the approaching winter. Evenings typically passed in quiet domesticity, the candlelight dimming as stories were recounted, prayers were whispered, and tools were laid ready for the start of another day. It was a life defined by simplicity, discipline, and a strong communal spirit, all revolving around the harsh rhythm of survival and subsistence. In 1664, several powerful English warships sailed directly into the harbour and dropped anchor. Faced with overwhelming external military pressure and exacerbated internal divisions, New Amsterdam had no choice but to surrender unconditionally, without a single resistance shot being fired. The city was immediately renamed New York, and its future course was irrevocably shifted, determined in that singular, short, fateful moment. The Treaty of Breda, signed in 1667, officially ratified this change in sovereignty, whereby the Netherlands agreed to cede the entirety of New Netherland to the English in exchange for control of the lucrative colony of Suriname. Although the Dutch briefly recaptured the city in 1673 and renamed it New Orange, that short-lived moment of resurgence lasted barely a year before New York permanently reverted to English rule. By the close of the 17th century, New York City had developed at a remarkable pace. The population quickly surpassed the 4,000 mark, new brick houses stood cheek by jowl, and the harbor was more bustling than ever before, energized by the powerful growth of transatlantic trade. The urban architecture still bore the strong influence of the Dutch, retaining distinctive pitched roofs and heavy timber beams, though it had begun to incorporate new elements of English design. The old defensive wall continued to serve as a crucial landmark, marking the northern boundary of the settlement. Running along the route that would eventually become known worldwide as Wall Street, the great harbor expanded, stretching out into the East River, transforming the location into a central nexus where valuable commodities, streams of immigrants, and every ambition for a new future ceaselessly converged. In 1689, the city was plunged into a state of heightened tension as news of royal succession changes and major political upheavals from Europe began to arrive. Militias hastily mustered, merchants hotly debated the new policies that would be enforced, and the populace anxiously monitored all activity unfolding in the harbor. New York was now existing in uneasy anticipation, fully swept up in the complex currents of the ongoing imperial power struggles. As the 17th century formally concluded, New York had entirely shed the guise of a small, wild frontier outpost. It had asserted itself as a dynamic, multicultural seaport, actively forging its own unique identity, a city forged from ceaseless commerce, persistent conflict, and extraordinary resilience, ready to assume a larger, more pivotal role in the developing history of the New World. Reflecting on New York's entire trajectory throughout the 17th century, we observe not merely the physical growth of a municipality, but the manner in which history is shaped by countless small choices, some silently made, others profoundly devastating. Starting as a modest trading dock nestled in the wilderness, where the first European footsteps imprinted on the Manhattan mud, New York incrementally learned how to survive brutal competition, adapt amidst prolonged conflict, and mature through cultural exchange and integration. That century provides a sobering reminder that no great metropolis is birthed in absolute tranquility. Development inevitably demands a heavy toll. Land was seized, native communities were displaced and dispossessed, human beings were commodified through slavery, and power was often determined not by justice or fairness, but by the sheer superiority of force. Recounting these harsh historical chapters is not about stirring resentment, but about ensuring succeeding generations understand that the prosperity they inherited should never be viewed as simple or unconditional. Late 17th century New York was a creation born from persistent labor and unrelenting ambition, but it was equally the result of decades of cumulative injustice. For this reason, the city's history holds a silent lesson. The true strength of a community lies not merely in its strategic location or commercial advantage, but in its ability to courageously confront its past, acknowledge its wrongdoings, and learn how to construct a more equitable future for all. As it prepared to step into the new century, New York could not yet foresee its eventual transformation into a global icon. Nevertheless, the foundations laid down during the 17th century defined its core spirit: diversity, formidable endurance, and a state of perpetual dynamism. For current and future generations, this historical narrative serves as a gentle yet profound reminder that history does not merely reside inertly within books. It is vividly present in every cobbled street, every dockside, and inherent in the responsibility of every citizen. The duty to understand the past, to avoid repeating painful precedents, and to build a more humane society from the very events that transpired.